should busy people also keep fit and healthy? What the ancient Greeks and Romans did. And what we're looking at here is a mural of female athletes competing in several sports, bikini girls mosaic in Sicily, Italy. Many people today worry about how to find time to keep fit and healthy in the midst of their busy lives. But believe it or not, this was also a problem in ancient times. So how did ancient people deal with it? It was a universal problem. The physician Galen, who lived from around 129 to 216 AD, dealt with thousands of patients in the city of Rome. He used to complain some people did not devote enough time to keeping fit. In his treatise, Hygiene, Galen wrote to one of his patients, a philosopher called Primigenus, who was such a workaholic, he stayed inside all the time writing books. Because of this bad lifestyle, Primigenus got sick. Galen said Primigenus needed to work less and devote more time to getting exercise and some sun. Some 2,000 years later, most of us will be able to relate to this. The World Health Organization has a number of recommendations for the amount of exercise one should do each week, but it can be difficult to balance work and other commitments with our health and fitness. The trade-offs of a busy life. People in the Greco-Roman period recognized that being busy has an effect on health. The writer Lucian of Samosata from the 2nd century AD talks in his essay on salaried posts in great houses about how certain jobs offered workers no time to maintain their health. A bad diet, endless labor, and a lack of sleep all contributed to making them unhealthy. The sleeplessness, the sweating, and the weariness gradually undermine you, giving rise to consumption, pneumonia, indigestion, or that noble complaint, the gout. You stick it out, however, and often you ought to be in bed, but this is not permitted. They think illness a pretext and a way of shirking your duties. The general consensus are that you are always pale and look as if you were going to die any minute. The doctors of the time also noticed this problem. Galen said, in his opinion, one of the determinants of whether we are able to be healthy or not is the amount of free time we have. He recognized some people had no choice but to be bound up with the circumstances of their activities, such as those taken into slavery, but noted others seem to have chosen a life caught up in the circumstances of their activities, either through ambition or whatever kind of desire, so they are at least able to spend time on the care of their bodies. Galen was also affected by this problem. As a doctor, he had little free time, and his normal routine was often interrupted by patients' problems. Nonetheless, he explains how in his 20s, he started adhering to a daily health routine. He said, after I reached the age of 28, having persuaded myself that there is an art of hygiene, I followed his precepts for the whole of my subsequent life and was never sick with any disease apart from the occasional ephemeral fever in some degree. Let's remember he lived about up to the age of 90. This routine involves eating one full meal each evening and doing some sort of exercise every day. One of these exercises may have been wrestling, as he also mentions dislocating his shoulder while wrestling at the gym at the age of 35. One advantage of Galen's routine was its flexibility. He just had to find some time each day to eat a meal and move his body. He said many other doctors at this time did not keep healthy. They overworked, ate and drank too much, and didn't exercise enough. Galen was not saying everyone should take up his routine. However, he noted everyone has a different nature, and people should take up routines that best suit their bodies. How the ancients kept fit? One wealthy Athenian citizen named Ischomachos, who lived in the 5th century BC, used to keep fit by exercising on his daily commute. When he had to go into the city, he would run or walk, or alternate between the two. He'd do the same when visiting his farm. Even the famous philosopher Socrates praised Ischomachos for keeping healthy in this efficient way, in spite of always being busy with commitments. Galen recommended all people should play ball games involving running and throwing to keep fit. Ball games, he thought, were a good option because they exercised the whole body and didn't require much money or equipment. For his overweight patients, he would recommend a routine of fast running and a slimming diet, one meal a day comprised of foods that would fill the patient but which were poorly nourishing. One doctor from the 7th century AD, Paul of Aegina, also identified how some people let their busy schedules get in the way of their health. He describes the sort of person who used to have a healthy routine but no longer follows it due to being busy. He who spends his time in business ought to consider whether, in the former period of life, he had been in the habit of taking exercise, or whether, though not taking exercise, he bears that habit well and escapes from diseases by having free perspiration. Paul recommended busy people lighten their commitments and resume as much of their old routine as possible. If they can't exercise as they did before, then at least they could eat healthily, he said. The worst thing would be to abandon both healthy eating and exercise. Developing healthy habits. The philosopher Aristotle said health is partly a matter of personal responsibility. If someone lives an unhealthy lifestyle and does not follow the advice of doctors, it's no surprise, Aristotle thought, if he or she ends up unhealthy. Generally speaking, the ancients seem to have believed it's up to each person to find flexible habits that can help them stay fit, and while this can be difficult, they thought it was imperative to a life well lived, much as we have today. It seems some things about being human do not change. And this is from the conversation here under Creative Commons on Message to Eagle. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.